I'll say it as a fan and nothing else. It is frustrating to see our momentum slowed before the season even truly begins. The Seahawks have officially placed rookie defensive tackle Deven Eastern on the PUP list to start his career. This injury is a tough blow for a big man drafted specifically to anchor our defensive front with his rare size and aggression. The situation shifts the focus to our depth and creates an unexpected path for other undrafted guys to fight for a spot. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments below. We are a brand new channel pushing toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single person who joins this community helps us keep going. Let's get into it. The Seattle Seahawks face a somber reality this offseason as rookie defensive tackle Deven Eastern has been placed on the PUP list for an undisclosed duration. Selected in the 7th round with the 242nd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft out of Minnesota, Eastern was highly anticipated for his massive 6'5", 320-pound frame and aggressive style of play. His development as a potential interior force in our heavy defensive front was a primary focus for the organization, making this injury a difficult setback for his growth. The team officially announced this designation as training camp begins, signaling that he will miss vital physical reps needed to adjust to the speed of the professional game. Fans are understandably disheartened as we were eager to see how his size could shore up our defensive depth chart this coming year. What makes this even bigger is the ripple effect this creates across our entire roster hierarchy. With Eastern sideline, the competition for the practice squad becomes significantly more intense for undrafted rookies like Uso Sumalo and Aiden Hubbard, who are now fighting for limited opportunities in the trenches. The loss of these early training camp practices leaves a vacuum in our defensive rotation that could force coach Mike Macdonald to pivot his personnel strategy much sooner than expected. This situation prompts a critical question that we must address as we look toward the final roster construction. If Eastern remains unavailable for an extended period, which of the current undrafted free agents has the necessary technical skill set to push a veteran like Brandon Peely for that final active roster spot? We need to analyze whether the front office will prioritize raw potential or immediate reliability as they navigate this unexpected early season hurdle and search for the right combination of power and athleticism in our defensive line. The most surprising reality of this situation is that Deven Eastern was actually nursing a lingering issue well before he officially stepped onto the field for his first professional rookie camp. While he was selected 242nd overall in the 2026 draft to utilize his massive 6'5", 320-pound frame, this placement on the PUP list suggests that the organization is choosing long-term health over immediate, potentially compromised performance. What nobody is talking about is how this specific injury pattern mirrors similar developmental setbacks we have observed in the past with late-round interior linemen who arrive with high expectations but limited physical windows to prove their worth. Behind closed doors, head coach Mike Macdonald and his staff are undoubtedly weighing the risk of rushing a player who relies heavily on his aggressiveness and pad level. If his body cannot sustain the physical demands of camp, the coaches are forced to look elsewhere for depth. This delay significantly alters the competition, as undrafted prospects like Uso Somalo and Aiden Hubbard now receive extra repetitions that would have belonged to Eastern. From the front office perspective, the team remains committed to the vision of a heavy defensive front. Yet they recognize that a 242nd pick must be handled with extreme care to avoid a wasted roster spot. They are likely banking on the hope that this mandatory downtime will provide him the mental clarity to study the playbook, even if he loses the chance to physically learn the nuance of the defense alongside his peers. While we patiently watch for updates on his recovery timeline, the open door for other hungry rookies creates a fascinating subplot for the remainder of the summer. We are waiting to see if he can truly bounce back or if the roster will shift permanently to accommodate those who are healthy enough to compete today. The clock is ticking on our defensive development as we watch the unfortunate placement of Deven Eastern on the PUP list during the most critical developmental window of the 2026 calendar. This matters right now because the Seahawks rely on early repetition to cultivate that heavy defensive front, and losing a 6'5", 320-pound talent during training camp disrupts the entire rhythm of the defensive line installation. Without those foundational snaps, Eastern falls behind in his transition from Minnesota, potentially delaying his integration into the specialized packages Coach Aiden Dirty envisioned for his unique frame and aggressiveness. And that changes everything regarding our interior depth strategy. Because he is sidelined, we now face an immediate ripple effect on the roster as an extra practice squad spot suddenly opens up, inviting an intense competition among undrafted players like Uso Sumalo and Aiden Hubbard to prove their worth. This shift places added pressure on veterans like Brandon Piley, who must now anchor the rotation without the luxury of a younger, high-upside player pushing him from below. When we look ahead to our grueling schedule, these early season depth concerns become magnified during physical matchups, where stopping the run is paramount. If our rotational players aren't properly conditioned and technically sound by the time we face our division rivals, we risk losing the line of scrimmage in pivotal games. This injury forces our coaching staff to prioritize immediate readiness over long-term growth, which could influence our defensive flexibility throughout the season. While our playoff aspirations remain high following our championship success, the margin for error in such a competitive league is razor thin. We need every single player, from the starters down to the bottom of the roster, to be mentally and physically sharp to defend our status and maintain the dominance required to navigate the complexities of the upcoming 2026 season schedule effectively. The decision to place Deven Eastern on the PUP list is a calculated move that serves as a protective barrier for both the player and the organization. By securing his roster spot early, the Seahawks provide Eastern the necessary runway to recover fully without the pressure of an immediate return to the gridiron. This allows him to focus entirely on physical rehabilitation, ensuring that his 6'5", 320-pound frame is eventually ready for the rigors of our heavy defensive front. And this is the part that gets me, as the primary drawback remains the lost time on the field. Without those crucial practice reps, Eastern misses the chance to master the nuances of his position, which could stunt his growth significantly. Analysts around the league note that this development opens a door for other hungry competitors like Uso Sumalo and Marvin Jones Jr. to make their case for a roster position or a spot on the practice squad. While some believe this injury might be a continuation of earlier offseason issues, I find the doom and gloom surrounding a 7th-round selection a bit overblown. Here is where I land on this. Drafting a project player with this much raw potential means we must accept the reality of an adjustment period, especially with someone of his size. It is far better to have him healthy for the long term than to risk a recurring setback by forcing him into action before he is ready. While it is unfortunate that Brandon Piley or other incumbents might feel less pressure to perform right now, this is simply the nature of professional football at the highest level. We have to be patient with the process, keep our eyes on the bigger picture, and trust that the staff will make the right calls when the time is truly appropriate. The long-term vision for our franchise rests on building a deep, resilient roster capable of sustaining the high standards set by our recent Super Bowl championship. When we look at the placement of Deven Eastern on the PUP list, it is not merely about one rookie missing time. It represents a calculated approach to player development where the Seahawks prioritize long-term health over immediate forced production. Think about it this way: we are fostering a culture where every single player, from the first round to the final pick, is given the resources to reach their full potential. As fans, you should feel encouraged by this careful management, as it ensures our defensive front remains powerful and deep for the entire 2026 campaign. By protecting players like Eastern now, we ensure they are at their best when the games truly matter most later in the year. This creates a steady environment where competition remains fierce, allowing undrafted talents like Uso Sumalo a genuine opportunity to prove their worth during training camp. We are watching a front office that understands how to leverage every roster spot to maintain our competitive edge across the league. With Eastern sidelined, the pressure shifts to the depth chart, and the development of our young linemen will define our defensive versatility this fall. Looking at the roster as it stands, do you believe that Uso Sumalo has what it takes to secure a spot on the active roster in place of Eastern? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. We are still pushing toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and every one of you helps us get there. Go Hawks! I'll see you in the next one.